Hello there, my extraordinary friends. Welcome back to the Top Hat Lounge for another episode of the official LXC podcast. All of our divisions are now well and truly into the postseason, and tonight we'll be taking a look at the playoff brackets as they currently stand for each and every one of those divisions. We'll be discussing all the matches that have already been played, including a perusal of some of the more notable win screens from those matches. And lastly, we will of course be examining some head-to-head stats that we'll be using to facilitate a bit of a deeper discussion about the teams that will be on stream this upcoming week. I am your host, Crewmann44. I'm joined by one of my regular guests this week, as well as some renowned representatives from Warden and Crusader. Introductions, please, everyone. Share with us your IGN, your team, your role, and tell us which team in your respective divisions you feel is the biggest threat or challenge that you still need to overcome, or in the case of those of us that have been eliminated from the playoffs, just give us a prediction for who you think might end up winning it all.
Hey everyone, I'm Storm, the mid laner for New Orleans Phoenix. With the remaining teams, kind of what I've said before, like obviously we did lose to Bloom, which was mildly unfortunate, but I've been kind of hyping them on for the last couple weeks. But between them and Elysium, I think it's going to make for a really good match, and I think it's quite possible the winner's going to be coming out of that one.
Excellent. Rept, I believe we have you up next.
Yes, sir. So Reft mid laner for Syndicate Reds. Um, yeah, I would also kind of agree with Storm. I think I would say like the biggest contender is Elysium for sure. They just look incredibly solid right now. So I'm very excited to see Bloom versus Elysium. That's going to be a banger match.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of which,
Hmm. Uh, I'm Cloudberry, the support for Bloom. I think I agree. I think whoever wins this side of the bracket is probably going to win the whole thing. Elysium is the match I've been looking forward to the most. I can say we were fairly confident going into last week, but this week is going to be a challenge for sure. So,
all
yeah.
right. Everybody's still keeping their eye on that Elysium roster. That's the roster with Sofa on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Last but not least,
Yeah, I mean, it's Aurel from Apotheosis, the team in LXC Warden. We're now in the semi-final, so obviously I'll say as their support that we're going to be the one winning all, but I think if it's not us, it's probably going to be the Mint team we face next week.
All right. Yeah, great to have you back, Aurel, on the show. I believe last time that you were here, it did unfortunately end up being a bit of a curse for you. I think you lost your match that you played immediately after that. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. If it does,
Exactly,
you
yeah.
go ahead and blame us. It'll be all our fault.
I
Totally
will, don't
fine.
worry.
Perfect. But guys, let's go ahead and jump into our first division. We've got a lot to get through tonight, so let's get right into it. Taking a look at the Arbiter League playoff bracket. Unfortunately, we are missing Gragusette. We don't have her here to share her insights, but her and the rest of the team did manage to pick up a 3-2 victory over TD Chrono Break last Monday. So, guys, taking a look at these win screens, let's give everybody a moment to kind of take a look here and peruse what we have. Is anything jumping out at you? Anybody who wants to start out, feel free. Anything that you notice as being interesting or surprising in these win screens?
I think an IBSG mid laner should play mid lane champions. In what in world are we going 1-10 on fucking Cho'Gath?
Which game is that, Storm?
Game 1.
Yeah.
And like, other than
Yeah,
that,
that's rough.
I think Gragusette obviously ending 7-3 and 5 on Akali. That's actually like not a great lane for Akali. It's kind of hard for her to deal with a lot of just AoE Cho'Gath bullshit, as well as like the way Cho'Gath's gonna take his HP and healing in that. It's hard for Akali to ever push to lethal, especially like with symbiotic souls and the move speed build type thing. So that can be really hard. So
Yeah.
props to her for staying such ahead of the game that doesn't like really end up panning out.
Yeah,
But
pretty crazy. This
overall,
first.
Neon Swords seem to be kind of the standout in a lot of their games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was true for Contingent Purple in their previous match as well. I felt like Neon Sword has been a really consistently standout performer for them. But yeah, I mean, I think this first win screen is just it kind of boggles the mind. I don't really understand even how this it could have happened. Like, yeah, the Cho'Gath is 1 in 10. Hoodie Man was 0-9 this game on the Caitlyn, and they won the game in 46 and a half minutes. Like, my goodness, this must have been some absolute craziness.
Scaling do be scaling, brother.
Hmm.
I guess so. I guess so. Pizza Pasta was topping out the damage charts there, notwithstanding Neon Sword's misfortune. But for the side of TD Chrono Break, it seems like Pizza Pasta was doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, definitely carrying their damage charts. Hoodie Man, even at 0-9, still actually pretty up in gold. Being able to hit 100% crit, sure he doesn't get that 5th item, but in reality that 5th item is a luxury more than it's useful. Um, yeah, that's a hard game to lose being contingent, but to
Hmm.
then still come back and bring the win after it is really impressive.
Yeah. Contingent Purple did manage to come out on top, it looks like, in game number 2. Neon Sword had another great performance on the Tristana this time. Was 6-1-13 with the most damage. Help them get the win. I'm noticing right now that it seems like every game was shorter than the last until we get to game 5, where they did jump back up a little bit in terms of total game time. It's kind of interesting. And it looks like the teams did go back and forth. TD Chrono Break picking up the win in game number 3. Hoodie Man having a stormer of a game on the Smolder in that one. Pizza Pasta on the Rumble. Pizza Pasta really felt like was a really solid carry threat for TD Chrono Break throughout all these games.
Yeah, and then by game 5, your Meshi kind of baits the infamous I'm just gonna blind Renekton on red side and let someone else take a counter pick if I had to guess going off their draft order.
Oh, let's
Um,
take a look. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be real. Renekton loses in like 2 matchups in the game. If you don't feel comfortable blinding as a top laner, for the love of God, just learn how to play Renekton.
It looks like the Renekton was actually the R5 pick for Contingent Purple. So he did want that matchup into the Jax, interestingly.
Yeah, it's a
Weird.
skill matchup. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, that's a really nice time. Hey,
It's it's definitely a skill matchup, but it's much easier as Renekton to bait out and make
Yeah.
Jax fuck it up than it is for vice versa. Because you can just press W and auto attack cancel your W and just bait out Counter Strike and then Q any away from it. And if he goes in, he just pop Dominus and fight. But it is the issue if you get outscaled if you fall behind as a Renekton.
Yeah, looks like Urameshi was able to make it work. I'm also noticing it looks like Gragusette was playing Ahri in every single game that Contingent won. Gragusette was 3-0 on the Ahri in this match. Anybody else? Anything we wanted to touch on in regards to these win screens, or should we go ahead and move on?
And briefly, the MF Lulu bot on game 5, not a big fan of it. It reminds me of a Fnatic game that happened against KC in LEC. I don't really like this Dio lane, to be honest. I do understand why they lost that game 5, I think. When I see that being picked, I will cry a bit in my game 5.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm also curious, like, why would they go Vigard as like B3 that game? Like, I don't know what the purpose is there. I guess 'cause maybe they're assuming that Gragusette just goes Ari, or
I suppose. Did Razors play the Vagar earlier in the series? I thought maybe I saw that. No, that was the first Vagar game. Yeah, it was interesting. I guess, it should be a pretty good matchup into the Ahri, I think, right? Although you're kind of giving over lane priority to Ahri, which can be dangerous.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
Storm. Is there any World Game 5 you're just blinding B3 mid there, Vigard?
I mean, let's look. Okay.
I think
So,
does
like,
does
it's not
Razors for
awful.
Life, does he main, like, is that one of his picks, like comfort picks? Does he play it a lot, Vagar?
I think
it's-
he has played it throughout the season a decent amount. And the other thing is you have to think about how long these games have been going.
Yeah, I'm thinking just because like looking at the other drafts, it looks like a lot of mid bands are going towards him. So maybe he's just thinking game 5, pick something I'm comfortable on early, and then go from there. Maybe I don't know. That's the only reason I can think that they're picking it that early.
I mean, it just seems weird because they see Seraphine, Kate, and then they're like just being okay with getting counterpicked mid, or them having the ability to counterpick, and then B4ing Lulu. Just seems interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they were just like scared to pick a melee support against Caitlyn Seraphine. But yeah, I mean, Misfortune Lulu, I don't think is a combo that any of us are super excited about.
Honestly, think like any engaged support's good there. Like Leona's probably not bad.
Yeah,
I've seen
I mean, I
Even
think
if
it
you
could
want,
work.
even if you want an enchanter like Nami is perfect.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just not in the pool.
Yeah, I mean,
Perhaps
I
not.
think going Enchanter is okay. Sorry, Bruno. I think going Enchanter is okay for sure. Just maybe not in that order. But.
Not the hyper carry pocket enchanter.
So I'm sure that that champion will be released any day now. Feel like that one is would be par for the course. Current releases. I think that's probably good for our windscreen discussion here. Let's go ahead and move on. Unfortunately, we don't have, as I already mentioned, our representative from Arbiter tonight, but we can still go ahead. It's not going to stop us from taking a look at these head-to-head stats. It's going to be the finals, of course, the grand finals over in Arbiter. It's the only league that had double elimination. Contingent Purple going to have a chance here to get their revenge against TD Harmony, who has kind of had their number for the entire season. Now, Storm, anything jumping out here in the head-to-head stats? I feel like would be a good place to start this discussion.
So in their head-to-heads, they've actually, fuck, this is gonna be their what, 4th time playing each other now this season?
Fourth? Would it? I thought
Third or
maybe it
it's
was
third or
the
fourth.
third. I think it's third because there's the regular season, and then Contingent lost once in the playoffs, but I don't think they would have had another meeting.
Yeah. From what I remember, this was a pretty like back and forth between them every time they've played.
Yeah.
I know they were worried going into Chrono Break. Obviously, still confident, but this series has tended to be close. I know the last time they played in the playoffs to drop Contingent to the loser side of the bracket, they did push
Mm-hmm.
that to 5 games as well. So I think this is definitely either team's series to take. Um, I have a little bit of bias. I think Contingent will be a little bit fresher going into this, purely because Harmony's coming off that break of like jumping straight to finals and kind of having to skip games with the way these brackets are laid out. So I think it's more convenient to kind of give that leadway over to Purple. But overall, Harmony's played pretty clean games. You can see it. They've got almost an entire 1.0 over Contingent when it comes to team KDAs,
Mm-hmm.
averaging more kills while having less deaths. Um, and they've all played the exact same amount of games. So
Yeah.
obviously, if this is just hand check on hand check, like Harmony should come out and win, but it's gonna turn into probably if they've been kind of asleep at the wheel while waiting for whoever was coming to come up.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that can work, right? Where, theoretically, it's an advantage, right? Being the first team seeded into the finals. You have time to rest. You're gonna have more tape on your opponents that you can look at. There's again, like theoretically, some fatigue that could factor in for teams that are making that lower bracket run. But in practice, it often does kind of feel like the team that makes that lower bracket run, that's played more games more recently, actually does end up with a little bit more momentum, a little bit more. They're just a little bit more on form, at least at the start of those series. So, Rep, any thoughts about that, or anything on in these stats that you feel like is worth mentioning?
Yeah. Well, actually, I have more a question for kind of Storm or anybody else is how important do we think like the Frost Toxin matchup is versus the Gragusette and dragging it out? It feels like if Gragusette isn't really online, the team, unless if Neon just like 1v9 carries, it's kind of hard for Purple to play. And then Frost and Toxin just, I think they're very like tempo-based players where if the game's going well, they play better. But if the game's kind of doomed, I know Toxin has mental booms at times.
I will say, I think for the side of Harmony, I feel like Frost and Toxin tend to have a lead a majority of the time they've played. Um, so I think it's much easier for them to control the game, whereas it kind of seems like catch/damage control from the other side. Um, obviously, things happen. Oh, with that wonderful noise, Right just joined as well. Look at that.
Yeah, my bad. I was so used to everything being cast or put in Central Time for me that Eastern Time just threw me off.
It's fine. It
well.
shall be dealt with in the town square.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could
But
join us, Regis. Oh, go ahead and finish your point, Storm.
going off what you said, I feel like Purple has much more of a balanced approach to how they're trying to like spread their strength around the map. Whereas if TD Harmony's mid jungle aren't like egregiously ahead, there's times where they look pretty like lost in the game where they don't know how to play around anyone else's pressure if it's not generated from them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's kind of how I viewed it as well. So I think that'll be like a really big point of contention is like how does Purple and mid jungle like synergy work?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if the side of TD Harmony end up banning out Gragusette's Ahri as well as the Lux. It feels like, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it seems like that was a pick that she relied on pretty heavily in that lower bracket final. So perhaps there is something there that TD Harmony are going to be taking a look at. But Cloudberry, anything in the stats or anything between these two teams that you wanted to add to the convo here?
Honestly, everything's so close. I feel like it's just gonna be one of those games where whoever shows up and wins. You know, like both teams seem to be fairly even. Like TD has the edge on some stats, but I think it's just whoever shows up on the day and can play a full series is gonna win.
Yeah,
With
absolutely.
two
I
teams
mean,
this
we've
close. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. We've seen bigger upsets just this past week, so a sneak
Yep.
peek there. But anything else to add, Aurel?
I mean, looking purely at the stats, like both teams look very close. There's not a single stat I see where there's really any team that's getting ahead. So it must be very, very close fight. I think it's even if I don't follow specifically the league, I think I may tune in to watch that one because that will definitely be a good fight with how close the stats are looking. I didn't watch a lot of games this season, but I'm sure there's gonna be good fighting.
Yeah, definitely the case. That's almost certainly, I feel like, going to 5 games, given the history between these two teams and the fact that they have been playing at such a similar level, like you guys have all been talking about. So should be a fun one. And then Aurel, I feel like Gragusette, is she also a French? I don't quite
I
remember. Did you
don't
guys
know
bond over that
her.
last time?
We did. She is French indeed, and we did spoke a bit together, but during the podcast and before it when she recognized my French accent. So yeah, we have some
So you
bonding
gotta,
already. But
yeah, you gotta show up to cheer on your countryman or country lady,
I
I
will.
guess in this case.
I will. Hopefully,
Perfect.
Ari is letting is open all the 5 games.
We'll see. We'll see. But I think now is a good time to go ahead and move on to Sentinel. Our Sentinel representative has joined us just in time. Righteous,
Yep.
thank you for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please. IGN, team, role, and then out of the teams that are remaining, if you could call out one other team that you feel like is going to be your biggest challenge or the biggest threat to look out for still.
Yes, my name's Righteous. I guess I'm like the team cheerleader. I don't play on the team, but I'm heavily involved. And then call it the biggest threat. It's got to be Roar, right? The way that they handled TFF 3-0 was pretty surprising. You know, we had both said, both CB and I, that if there's a team that could beat TFF, it is Roar. We just didn't think it would be that convincing. So they're definitely on notice right now from us.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, we'll see if they can keep it going against the Bunny Brawlers. The Bunny Brawlers have been having a fantastic season over there as well. But Righteous, it looks like your squad also picked up the 3-0 over Sub-Zero. So, thankfully, Sub-Zero can't go Sub-Zero in terms of wins. 0 is the lowest that they can. Sorry, that was terrible.
There you go.
But
No,
what?
that's
I assume you were watching those games, Righteous.
Yeah, no, I had the opportunity to cast them. It was good. I
Mhm.
think the first game went like 24 minutes. And then games 2 and 3, Rivals played a little bit too loose from my point of view, just because of how one-sided game 1 was. But they did pick up the 3-0, and Sub-Zero put some good things together. I think they got the majority of the roster past the halfway point. They were playing with the sub top, unfortunately, so
Ah,
um, I don't know if it would have changed the outcome, but it might have looked a little bit different. But I like those guys over at OSG. They put up a good show, but it just wasn't enough.
yeah. Shout out to was it Novocaine, the
hmm
OSG owner we had on, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. So shout out to him. I know he talked a lot about just taking things away from this season. Really being able to learn a lot. He had a lot of players on these rosters, I think, that were new to competitive, and being able to go into the next season then with that sort of learning mindset is going to be great, I think. So hoping to see all those OSG teams come back for next season in a big way. But Righteous, any other results here that you really would like to zoom in on? We're going to be taking a look at some win screens in just a moment. That match between the Chill guys and Roar. But anything else here while we're on the playoff bracket that you feel like is worth mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising to see TD Blessed beat NLE. We kind of had NLE penciled in as the number 1 or the number 2 between them and TFF. Both of those teams lost, which was
Yeah.
wasn't really on our radar, but TD put up a really good show as well. And then the Plasma was Bunny Brawler series. We didn't really know what to make of it. They're both rosters that basically their first week of playing was the playoffs. So that was kind of a toss up. It went 3-1. I would say it was surprising, but it was not the same Plasma Wolves team we saw the whole split. It wasn't the same BBP team we saw the whole split. So it was interesting.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess I didn't actually realize that there had been so much roster turnover for both of those teams. So I'm glad you mentioned it, Righteous.
hmm
Well, let's go ahead now and move on to these win screens. Taking a look at game number 1 between the Chill guys and Roar. So 34.5 minutes on this one, and Roar managed to take the victory. And Stink Pickle had an Akali performance that was even stronger than Gragusette's Akali performance that we were looking at a little while ago. Actually did have the most damage on the team, 12, 2, and 4 on the Akali. Storm, anything else jumping out at you here, or anything to hone in on for this first win screen?
So, was it me and you, crew, that cast this series?
No, I was unfortunately sick last week. I wasn't able to get in any casts, sadly.
No, it was me and
It wasn't me.
Soul. Me and Soul did it. My goat.
Shout
Yeah,
out
no,
Soul.
Stink Pickle, definitely had kind of a generational run over these 3 games. In that game 1, the Akali, 12 and 2 and 4, constantly just kind of like playing on flanks, playing for picks. TFF really slacking at clearing vision in their own jungle. So they kind of got caught by a lot of them. It is also the sad point of like playing in competitive when you start seeing champs that aren't super popular in solo queue. Good examples of this being like Rek'Sai, the Moistening plays a lot. Zach's another good example of it, where especially like junglers that can play from different angles than most junglers, just kind of ruin your mental thought of where they're at. Just due to the fact they have so many different gank angles than other junglers, it can be really hard to track. And so I think Moistening was able to set up Stink Pickle to get early game leads in a lot of these games. And a lot of the champs he was playing, once they have that lead, they do just kind of run you over.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, no, he definitely was playing extremely well. Feathers is also probably like the little unsung hero in a lot of these games. Game 1, 3-0-3, just kind of side lane, weak side warrioring it out. Game 2,
Yeah.
1-2 and 11, and then game 3 finally again I got his pop off game with the 10-3 and 11 on Urgot.
There you go. Yeah,
But
definitely
yeah,
call out there. It seemed like a strong performance across the board for Roar. Righteous, were you watching these games as well? Did you see these?
I watched a little bit of the series. Yeah, I mean Sting Pickle definitely stood out as probably the MVP of the series. But Roar in general, they kind of approached the series. You know, if you've been watching like Rivals content and stuff, TFF, we kind of laid it out there for them. Like their blueprint is they want to scale the late game. A lot of the picks you see Efron and Crowmann take, are picks that function with 3 or 4 items, and Roar took that challenge and said, okay, let's lock the Akali, let's lock these mid game centered champions, and make sure they can't get to the late game. And Storm kind of nailed it on the head. They took that aggression, they lived in the opponent's jungle, they did everything they need to do to kind of put that team down, and they looked really good doing so. Stink, plays a bunch of weird champions. Moisting plays a bunch of weird champions, or champions you don't really see in those roles, which is, when you're playing in these playoffs, getting these very unique looks that you haven't seen all year is definitely hard to prepare for. You can't really prepare for it, and it just looked like it threw TFF for a loop, and they really didn't have an answer for that team.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that we were calling out Moisting earlier from Storm was pick the Rek'Sai against the Wei in the mid lane. Wei, of course, pretty immobile, susceptible to getting ganked by champions like Rek'Sai. So seems like you're just saying, Righteous, there was a pretty clear game plan for Roar, and seems like they were able to execute it pretty nicely. Taking a look at the second win screen next. Looks like Stink Pickle busted out the Aphelios mid in this one. Rept as a fellow mid laner. You ever experimented much with the Aphelios? How are you feeling? Thoughts on that matchup against the Syndra?
Yeah, no, I've definitely never
No?
experimented with the Aphelios mid tech.
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, I feel like this would be relatively hard to play for Aphelios. I mean, you would need like jungle intervention, but once you blow his flash once, like I don't know how he like actually plays the game.
Yeah. I mean, Moisting on the Rek'Sai once again here. It looks like I'm sure it was kind of a similar game plan that they were looking for inside of Roar.
Yeah, and I mean, generally early, like I can't see you losing that 2v2 from like the chill guys like 2v2 versus Rars 2v2, but I think in reality they should just be leveraging like power through mid into jungle into whatever objective they want.
There's a lot of people in chat. So Stink Pickle actually played top for like the first 15 minutes into the kill.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and then
Uh,
they did like a solo lane swap, which was kind of interesting.
Interesting. That's a buck wild game.
Then it was Feathers Urgot laning against the Syndra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
seem like necessarily an easy matchup for the Urgot either, but I guess Feathers is very comfortable on the champ.
it's not, but it's more. Urgot's just generally has more survivability as a champion than
Mm-hmm.
Aphelios does. Aphelios kind of just gets 2 rotationed by Syndra once she has half an item. Urgot can kind of just absorb the poke with the E flip shield. Um, but on top of that, Aphelios can actually just bully the Kale to oblivion, and you saw it happen during the game if you were checked back on the VOD. Like there's a point where Aphelios is like 40 CS to Kale's 11. Um, so he was quite the
Wow.
anti-fun game for.
Is that generally how that should go? I thought Kale was like kind of sleeper strong level 1 at least and could just trade with most champs.
Into melees she can, because she can abuse her passive. Something like Aphelios she's
Okay.
not gonna be able to stay in range with.
Makes sense, yeah. Interesting to see that this game time was actually longer than game number 1 by about 5 minutes. But clearly it was Roar was able to execute a similar kind of game plan. What do you think there was any reason in particular for that Storm, or just lost got an objective stolen or something, or
Can you repeat the front First,
Well, I
like,
was just
5 words.
Yeah, I was just curious about why the match time here in game 2 was a little bit longer than in game number 1, despite the fact that just going by the KDAs, it looks like it was a similarly one-sided game for Roar.
Um, if I remember right, I want to say bot lane was like kind of far behind in this game,
Hmm.
as well as Silent, while behind was getting good picks. Um, Islamic was also able to kind of stall out the game as level 18 Kale for a little bit. Sadly, it was a little bit too late. Um, once Foes just hits literal full build, and the only real damage in the game that can kind of rip through him is Syndra, but Syndra's also building to like deal damage to tanks, and instead of just blow him up, it gets a lot harder. Um, but TFF hit a point later in the game where they were able to just kind of like stand and fight with them, but they just ended up opting into a bad fight, didn't realize cheap track of cooldowns, and just kind of got blown up for it and eventually lost.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Taking a look at our last win screen now. Folks we haven't heard from yet, Aurel, Cloudberry,
Mhm.
either one of you guys, anything in this third win screen jumping out at you that you feel like would be worth mentioning?
I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say just the 3 Urgot in a row, so
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I mean, when you lose 2-0, you really want to change something. In this situation where either thing you've made against the Urgot didn't work, either pick you had because either they lane swap or things like that, I think they may have need to ban it. I'm watching how the draft happened, and the Urgot was picked early. But still, I think maybe I wouldn't have let the Urgot go through and force this top laner to play something else. Maybe play around that. But also, I'm surprised that I see a top laner with 63 vision score at 35 minutes, which is almost as much as the jungler, the support. I
Yeah.
just note that when I was watching. 63 vision score is pretty impressive. I don't know that top laner, but that's pretty good as a
Yeah,
support main.
Feathers. Yeah, absolutely. Feathers actually had the second highest division score on the team in every single one of these games.
Mhm.
So clearly I think you mentioned earlier, Storm, that he was playing a lot of weak side, right? So that makes sense that he was able to get those wards down to keep himself safe. He's going for those weak side plays. But yeah, we can see also. I think that's a great shout, Aurel. Just the fact that Feathers was allowed to play the Urgot 3 games in a row is kind of surprising on its face. But if we look at the bans for TFF Chill guys, they did ban away. Their first 3 bans were all champions that Roar did play in the previous game in game number 2. So you only get 3 bans, right? You can't deny everything.
It's true.
Unfortunately for the Chill guys. So I'm sure they would have banned the Urgot if they had been able to.
They had more balance, yeah.
Cloudberry, anything else you wanted to add? Anything you mentioned?
Nothing really. I like Stink Pickle's name though.
It's
Good
a
name.
great name, yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then Storm, since you were casting these games, anything else you wanted to add about this game number 3?
This
Or
game
no,
looked like,
or no, it was
from our
Righteous who was
cast.
casting. Or who
No,
was
it was
casting
me.
again? Oh,
It
okay,
was
my
me,
bad,
and
my bad.
I did lie earlier. Soul did cast game 1. Dira did step in for game 2 and 3. So I did lie a little bit earlier on that, but in game 3, Efron decided to go away from a control mage in this game and go for the Silas. I thought was an interesting choice. Um, also taking the Aatrox as the counter pick into Urgot, very reminiscent of like Worlds 2018 when they were like the only 2 top laners played with the entire tournament.
Yeah.
I thought was a fun little callback to watch just the matchup fold throughout the game. But this was a much more even game, I thought, for a good portion of it. It's just like every game, Sting Pickle just getting ahead on something like that Echo, being able to force dives onto like Poodle Seraphine, and then once Seraphine's dead, there's not a whole lot of extra support to keep Smolder alive. Was a really big factor in these games.
Makes sense. Well, let's go ahead and move on now. We've got some head-to-head stats for our streamed match in Sentinel for this upcoming week. It's going to be the Bunny Brawlers versus Roar. So the Bunny Brawlers, as we were just hearing earlier, have a very different roster and what they were playing with for most of the season. Despite that fact, they did still get a pretty convincing victory over the Plasma Wolves in the quarterfinals, but not quite as convincing as Roar's 3-0. So, Storm, what about these stats you feel like is a good place to start for this one?
Let's look. Obviously, Bunny Brawlers had pretty strong season. Obviously, I don't think they dropped a match throughout the season. Obviously, rosters have changed. Yada yada yada. RAR has had a back and forth type of season, so obviously stats are going to be misleading in this. But just going off how RAR played in this first game, I think vision score is going to be super important to be able to let Moistening keep playing off advantageous angles for his champions, as well as trying to make sure Pickle gets ahead in his matchups so that they can both kind of rove the map and affect the game. So I think that's going to be a really good thing to pay attention to. And you kind of can see that in RAR's games. They're averaging, they have 771 assists in comparison to Bunny Brawlers, who are at 419. Obviously, RAR's played a lot more games, but generally, there's still this. It's not a lot of solo kills coming over on the RAR side from at least top and bot lane, as much as it is like they're generally getting these kills in fights, and I think that'll be really important in against someone like Bunny Brawlers, who is getting a lot of solo kills that are constantly playing on sidewave push.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's a massive average team vision differential between these squads. Aurel, he kind of stole your point there, but anything else you wanted to add, or do you feel like that, is reflected in any of these other stats maybe that you think are related?
I mean, I will join Storm. I think those kill, death, assists stats, even though it's 5 more games for her, it really show different view of the game. There is a even if there's brawler in the name of BBP, I think they're not fighting a lot. They look to be winning dominance in lane and just be able to play objective. Their game time is still longer, which proves that there is less death, less kill. Like it's less messy, if I can say it like again. It's just based off stat. It look a bit more precise, and they end the game in 32 minutes with not a lot of kill, not a lot of death, but they've just been winning everything. I saw the entire thing for Sentinel, and so yeah, they look very dominant. While Roar, and even in the last best of 5 we watch, is a team that really like to fight. So we'll just see exactly if they can survive laning phase. I think it could be a very good best of 5.
Definitely, definitely. Righteous, anything you wanted to add here? Obviously you've seen your squad go up against both of these teams at some point in the season. Although I guess maybe the Bunny Brawlers is a bit of an asterisk there. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we never got to play BBP just because they're on the other side of the bracket, different sector.
Right.
But it's interesting. It's kind of like a clash of styles. I would agree with what everyone said so far. Where if you look at how Aurora likes to operate, it's their jungle and their mid like to play sort of like a dynamic game or volatile game, where like Feathers and their bot side are kind of more of those anchors. There's a reason why Feathers is like top in CS, top in vision, lowest in deaths for top lane. It's just because he's like Mr. Fundamentals up there. And then you look at the other side for BBP, right? They kind of take that Feathers approach, it seems like, outside of, I would say, their top laner, Pila Mirialis. He's kind of like their mechanical, dynamic, kind of pushes the envelope player, while the rest of BBP likes to play kind of like a little bit of scaling or more like front to back team fight, kind of like you're used to seeing. And so for this series, it's really going to come down to can Pelum kind of get those advantages that he's used to getting against a stable laner like Feathers, or can Feathers kind of just neutralize that, let his mid and jungle kind of run the early to mid game, and then come late game they're just a leg up because Pelum's not hitting those power spikes as often or as quickly as he's used to doing. Um, I think Roar, they have their game plan figured out. I think probably like week 4 or 5 is when they started to firing on all cylinders, and so it's going to be really tough for BBP to beat them, and if they do, for rivals to take them on in finals. So we'll have to see, but I think Roar definitely is probably in the driver's seat for this series.
Yeah, I mean, you in your introduction, I think you called out Roar as being the main competition, the main team you're looking out for at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Really interesting as well to hear about the top lane matchup, how those are kind of contrasting styles between those two players. It sounds like that could definitely be end up being really impactful on the outcome of the series. You know how that top lane does end up going. Our other guests, Cloudberry, Rep, anything you
Yeah.
guys wanted to add in regards to these stats?
Yeah, I noticed that the dragons killed and towers taken is like vastly like greater on their side. I don't know. I haven't watched any of this like league's games or anything, so I don't know how good Bunny Brawlers or RAR are. But it seems like RAR prioritizes dragons and towers a lot more than this other team. I don't know if Bunny Brawlers is just winning without having to take them, but like 53 to 17 is like a big difference to just be for 5 games played difference.
Yeah.
So I feel like if these games go long enough to like 5 items on both teams, like gold lead doesn't matter anymore. I might have to give it to RAR just because they're taking objectives. And if these games go long and you're not taking objectives, it's going to be a lot harder to play the map in these like stressful late game, like 40, 50-minute games. So I thought that's interesting. Like only 7 dragons killed in 14 games is to 53 is kind of wild.
It is,
But
yeah. It's a lot of these stats.
maybe
are
RAR's
kinda
games are
crazy.
going really long and they're playing 3 games every week, but still that's quite a big difference. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. I thought that was interesting.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like it's a crazy difference, like in reality.
Yeah.
But I think that's also like you could kind of leverage that. Like that Roar just goes Drake, so like
Oh,
if you
for sure, yeah.
yeah, if you just work on your Drake setup and just like catch them, maybe you don't even look to fight Drake, but you just look for the fight after Drake to get an advantage.
Mhm.
I mean, that could also be something that Bunny Brawlers could look into. I do think it's interesting though, like if the team has changed so much, kind of like how much the mentality shift between the previous Bunny Brawlers will change, because like these stats are saying one thing, but what if the new players
Mhm.
that are on the team are just, completely different and they just want to fight dragons all the time, right? So
Mhm. Yep.
Definitely. So we're inquiring right now whether these stats for the Bunny Brawlers are actually just stats from after the roster was kind of reformed, as obviously it used to be Outlaws Obsidian. That might explain some of these, but the fact that there are still a lot of games played here does kind of lead me to believe that these stats are inclusive of the Outlaws as well, but hard to say for sure. Yeah, so it looks like the stats did carry over. So yeah, it's really, really kind of bizarre, honestly. A lot of these, I'm glad you guys were able to highlight some of the bigger discrepancies that we do have in these head-to-head stats. It'll be really interesting. It sounds like Roar do kind of generally want a messier game. So if they can drag the bunnies into the dirt, then Roar might end up coming out on top. Let's go ahead now and take a look. We do have one clip submitted from Sentinel this past week. This is the Roar jungler, the Moisting, submitted this clip titled "Who Needs Malphite?" Take a look at what happens here. Moisting finding 3-man knock up there. I guess that was the reference. I didn't know Rek'Sai had Malphite ultimate in the kit, but apparently Moisting showing us that he actually locked in 2 champions at once with that selection. Seems a little bit overpowered.
Nice.
Hmm.
Pretty sure that's how they ultimately end up winning.
Yeah,
'cause
Storm.
until then, it was pretty close.
Yeah. Do you remember, Storm, if this was... Oh, just going by the time controls down there at the bottom, yeah, it looks like this was pretty much
they
right
went up
towards the end of the
push, if I
game.
remember.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, a 5-0 ace, I have a hard time seeing how they wouldn't be able to end off that. Yeah, well done. And I guess, was this game 3 as well? No, this was game 2. That's when Stink Pickle was on the Aphelios.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty wild game. It looks like the side of their opponents, who I'm totally blanking on right now, did get up to Soul Point as well in this game. But yeah, Side of Aurora ended up coming out on top in the end. Last word over to you, Righteous, as our Sentinel representative. Anything else that we missed that you wanted to touch on before we move on to Crusader?
So I do want to confirm that a lot of the totals we saw in that stat screen is just week 8 and play-ins because of
Okay.
the reformation. So that
Mhm.
there's a reason why Aurora's 11,000 more CS than
Mhm.
BBP. But I mean, outside of that, like what we were talking about, a lot of it is going to come down to that topside matchup. The ability for BBP to kind of rein in the fast-paced tempo that Moising and Sting Pickle like to play, and then on the other side, the ability for Feathers to kind of reel in Mirialis and make sure he doesn't get to pop off like we're so used to seeing him do. So it's gonna be a fun series. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like a 3-3 or a 3-1 to RAR, just because they've had so much more time than this BBP roster to kind of ramp up and get to where they're at. But if it doesn't go that 3-0 or 3-1, then it could easily as well be a 5-game series just because of that clashing style.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, that will definitely be a really fun matchup to track. That top lane matchup in particular. See if that does end up weighing pretty heavily on the outcome. But I think we can now go ahead and move on it to Crusader. And boy, oh boy, a lot sure did happen here in the Crusader League for the quarterfinals. A lot of upsets did end up coming through. And New Origin, Storm, unfortunately, has been completely eliminated from the tournament. What
It is
went wrong for you
unfortunate.
in that match, Storm?
I mean, I've been saying it for like the last 3 weeks that I thought Bloom was like actually pretty good, especially after doing a bunch of roster changes.
Mhm.
So we definitely didn't think it was going to be a one-sided series by any means. Obviously, it ended up going to Game 5. Um, I mean, there's some draft things in a bunch of the games where, when I personally think it looks like shit, I just need to say it's shit and force something else, regardless of what I'm being told. Because that happened at least twice. But either way, our games 2 and 3 were really bad, and then game 4 we kind of rebounded. Kind of just went back to reliable on Syndra and just started one tapping people on repeat. To then game 5, Blinding game goes like 38 minutes, if you remember Cloudbry. I don't remember. It was a
Sometime.
long game though. Sadly, some people walk into some unworded bushes and just play
Unlucky.
Get Caught Simulator for 2 minutes, and series just kind of ends off that, which it sucks, but it is what it is. The name of the game. And then we got a wonderful comp ruling. Fucking props to somebody able to get comp ruled twice in the season. It's crazy. I don't know.
On your team?
No, not us.
Okay.
Brother is getting the lore.
Oh.
Crazy work.
Wow. So some account sharing apparently for the side of the Panda Fighters down there. I mean, I see some scores for that match, but I also see the little FF box. So what? I mean, was that played and then like?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Amazing. Well, we're gonna get to that in just a minute, but I want to give Cloudberry a chance to share his perspective on that match against New Origin Phoenix. And then, of course, since we didn't have an episode last week as well, I would love it, Cloudberry, if you could share your insights about the matchup that you played against the Uncaged Bandits. Also, so wherever you would like to start.
I'll do Uncaged Bandits first because it was a bit ago. To be honest, that series was kind of interesting. We haven't beaten them. Like, we scrimmed them before the season started, lost 3-0, lost to them 2-0 in like the cross group match. But even then, with how we were playing, I felt really confident. So going into that game, like, we lost game 1, we kind of trolled, and then the last 2 games were kind of just like business as usual. But after that, going into last week's games, nobody was doubting our ability to win, especially since we kind of just like had this feeling that we were just going to perform. and we knew it was gonna be a tough series, but we had a game plan, and we kind of. I don't know if anybody watches Lost Returns. I'm gonna shout out my friend Unleashed here, who kind of led me in this direction to checking it out. But they have like this mindset when they go into games. It's the three Ds: discipline, draft, dragons. Basically, that's kind of how we ran our games. Stay disciplined in our decisions and what we want to do. Don't troll plays. Focus on our drafts. The 2 games that we lost, we trolled our drafts completely. I will say game 1 was a testing draft. We wanted to see if we could take Ivan from them without having to ban it. Didn't work out. We didn't play it very well, so we just opted into banning it every game. But yeah, that game 4 was just kind of unfortunate. We left open Syndra, which we knew would be a problem. Thought we could play into it. We didn't. And then we just focused on stacking dragons. We knew their bot lane was pretty strong. They like to facilitate for their ADC, so we kind of just tried to play to shut that down. And yeah, I mean, my solo laners are just insane. Like, Instrument plays so well, and so does Banana Man. He's been a great addition to the roster, so I mean, yeah. My solo laners are good. I'm just in their backpacks. So yeah. Oh, also too, our mental was insane. Like, nobody, like, every loss we had in that series, like, we knew that we could win the next game or the next 2. So it was a fun series.
Yeah, really interesting to hear
Yeah.
that it sounds like there are some draft mishaps on your side as well, Cloudberry. That's something that
Yeah.
Storm was talking about as well in the games that he lost. He
Yeah.
felt like there was some draft errors that happened.
Yeah, game 1, I played Zillion in a ranked game that day before the matches. I was like, oh, dude, this champion's broken. Let's pick it today. And I thought it was good in the game 1, but it was like really useless. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
but it was
Oh,
whatever. It is what it is. And then game 4, I think the Syndra was an issue. That's about it. I mean, everybody played well when we needed
Yes.
to.
So Banana Man, you mentioned as the newer addition to the roster.
Mhm.
Was that the pickup that you've mentioned previously, Storm? I know that was, the reason why we started kind of taking notice of Bloom, halfway to 2/3 of the way through the season, because I had that big addition to the roster, and that's when they really started ramping up. Is that track for you, Storm?
I mean, sort of. I mean, what was it? Initially,
It was our
Guster and
first.
Benji came
Yeah.
in, and then you moved mid. So
Mhm.
then Benji ranked out, so you moved back bot, and then Banana Man came in.
Yeah, because this season has been ups and downs for our rosters. Obviously, we made some couple swaps. Enjoying League and not enjoying League have been a struggle for some people, as most. But yeah, so we dropped Unleashed and Mercy, and then we brought in Guster. I moved to mid. We brought in Ren, and then Joel ranked out. So then we just brought in Banana Man from one of our other rosters. So it worked out in the end. I think it's better than me playing mid, anyways. So
Yeah, cool. I actually recognize Guster from some other leagues that I cast,
Mhm.
so cool to see him finding success here as well. But anything else that you wanted to respond to there, Storm? I thought that was pretty interesting. The discipline, draft, and dragons comment. I actually was not familiar with that Rotone strategy. Anything else you wanted to respond to, Storm, or anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, we think we covered it pretty well. I mean, props to them, they won. Obviously, going into it, it sucks, but it is what it is. It's the nature of the game.
It sure is. It sure is. So, Cloudberry, looking ahead now, your next matchup against the Chocolate Pancakes. Thoughts heading into that one?
Honestly, I think this is going to be our hardest matchup. We played them early in the split and went 2-1, but I was playing mid. I'll be honest, I got actually hate crimed in that series by Naysayer and the entire team. They just came mid as 4, like, for like 10 minutes straight. But I think Banana Man stepping into mid lane is going to be a little bit different. I think his mental can handle it better than I can. But I think it'll be close. We're friends, Guster's in Elysium, so we're friends with all of them. So
That's
it should be a
right,
fun
yeah, yeah.
series. I think it's going to be. I want it to go 5 games. I think it'll be a fun series if it goes 5 games. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure. Is that going to be our streamed match? It looks
I
like
think
it
so,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll examine that in a little bit more detail later on. But for now, we need to hear from our other Crusader representative, Mr. Rept. Looks like you played 4 games, and then there were some shenanigans that were revealed. So just kind of walk us through what your and the rest of the team's adventure in that quarterfinals match.
Yeah, so it was pretty eventful, to be honest. I think my team was actually trying to just airport, like like speed run at home. So there was some questionable play. No, I mean it was really weird because we were playing and then we noticed like their support was just muted for all 4 games, just like hasn't said a word the entire time, hasn't unmuted. So we inquired about it, but it was just an interesting game. It was like midnight, and then we had to wait for a ruling to come out.
Wow.
But yeah, in reality, it was a banger series. I mean, it was kind of unfortunate that it ended in such like a anticlimactic ending of just like, yeah, okay, go to
Yeah.
bed. We're no longer playing. I mean, I called out of work the next day, staying up until 1 a.m. So it was yeah.
Dang. So you got a dub to go with your dub.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
a day off as
pretty
well.
much.
There you go, man. That's we take those. We take those. Is there anything from the games that you did play that you feel like anything specific that you wanted to highlight, or you mentioned your team maybe not having the greatest of performances, maybe that you've seen from them. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to
No,
add regarding that.
no, I mean, in reality, it was a fun game. I think like the cool thing was that kind of what Cloudbry was saying of like even after we lost the game, it was kind of like we were just like, okay, yeah, we know exactly what happened. It is what it is. Let's like we can just win the next game and then you know. So like mentals, we were just kind of vibing and just just trolling each other the entire time. So I mean, Sin Reds, we're all just kind of homies anyway. So it's every game is fun. But I mean, they were good. Like they played really well. It was kind of unfortunate that they weren't being, honest and with who's playing, but it was fun for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Did you relate to what Cloudberry said as well about the discipline draft and dragons thing? Sorry, I'm kind of stuck on that. I really enjoy that. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
something you're going to take for yourself?
so I'm actually pretty familiar with it as well. Like I watched
Oh.
Lost Journeys as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really talked about it or implemented it a whole lot. I mean, we kind of just show up on Wednesdays and play our best. So, but I mean, no, it's a super good thing, right? So we're not you just don't randomly pick Garen into Cassante and get solo killed. But yeah, no, not trolling drafts a big thing.
Right, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's interesting to me. The Storm, I feel like, has been kind of bearish on you guys for most of the season, saying that you're a bit fraudulent at the top of the standings over there in the other sector. So the fact that you've made it farther now in the playoffs than him and Norgid Phoenix, I
man.
find to be pretty humorous.
So I will say so. Hey, look, I'm the residential Storm hater. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I'm
Okay?
glad to hear that goes both ways. That's
So
great.
so
Oh
I'm
my.
the
Join the
residential
club,
Storm hater.
brother. Join the club.
It is what it is. I'm upset that he couldn't use the ping excuse twice when but
Shit.
beside the point, in reality, that side of the bracket is crazy, like sleeper difficult. Even if Bloom was like horrible, which they're not, obviously, that side of the bracket is like incredibly stacked. Where our side is, I mean, honestly, it's pretty. In my opinion, it's pretty sleeper. I kind of wish we could have seen how it actually panned out, with like legitimate rosters on the bot side. But yeah, the top side's way harder of a road to finals.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you also called out Elysium as maybe being the team that you're most worried about as well, right, Rept?
Yeah, I mean, I straight up hope that Bloom just stomps them because I don't want to play Elysium.
We'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully it's 3-0. Just get him out of here. Call it a day.
We
Well,
don't
what are your?
3-0.
He
We can't
promises that's
3-0.
not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know, Cloudberry. So Rept is already shaking in his boots over there. But what do you think about the semifinals opponent that you do have here, Mr. Rept? Your thoughts going up against Clown Gaming in that next round?
I mean, I think it's really it's unfortunate that we have to kind of play. We're playing a new support almost this week as well. I mean, Dira's kind of goated, so I'm not really too worried about it. But I think Clown Gaming
Caster
is
extraordinaire, Dira.
yeah.
Wow.
I think Clown Gaming is sleeper. Is like sleeper like pretty good. I mean, they've definitely ramped up. Everybody kind of likes to hate on Rezi, but I mean, he's been playing pretty well. So there's rumors that their mid laner will be out and they'll be subbing. So that'll be
Oh.
interesting if that happens.
I wonder if the Wookiee monster is coming back. My boy. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, I think in reality, I mean, Should be a good series. I mean, hopefully it's not too close. Hopefully we just kind of, 3-1, 3-0, go to finals, and then call it a night. I don't want to call out of work again.
You're hoping for the 3-0, 3-1. Is that realistically what is your prediction for the score in this match?
I would say realistically 3-1.
Okay.
Us.
Okay. Cloudberry, prediction for your match? You think it's you were saying you were actually hoping it was going to go to 5. Is that your expectation?
Yeah, I think we're gonna take it 3-2.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
it's gonna go 5 games, I think, regardless.
Yeah, that should be a
So-
banger for sure.
I think if it doesn't go 5 games, we're getting 3-1. I'm just saying it now.
So you need that
yeah.
extra pressure from the game 5
Yeah,
to
yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
hmm
Good to know. Very
Uh,
very useful insight for us.
Is it okay if I respond to some of the haters in the chat real quick?
Oh, please go ahead.
So okay, look, guys, you're right. I didn't know Dira. My team said Yo Dira's the goat, so I trust him. But I was a little frustrated that we were having a new support randomly. I woke up. I've been sick for the past like 5 days to just say, hey, we're playing with this person. So, and Peekaboo, hop in my backpack, brother. You don't gank me ever, and I still win lane. So I just don't understand it. It is what it is.
Fantastic.
Oh shit.
All right. Glad we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and move on now to some win screens. We have some win screens at Clown Gaming. Their 3-0 triumph over the Goon Squad. We've already taken the time, Storm, to sort of reflect and lament a little bit on your own squad's demise. But now we're going to have the opportunity to take a look at what happened to the other New Origin squad. So, were you pretty clued into what was happening here, Storm? I mean, this was, I believe, not. Was this the match that we had on stream last week? It was. It was. So, were you watching these games then, Storm, or did you go back and watch later?
I did not.
Okay.
Kind of
What
after
did
our
you
series,
hear
I just
about
kind
this
of
match?
IRL deep dived. I
Ah.
actually haven't really talked to many people from Goon Squad since this.
Hmm.
But I know enough of their own internal struggles to kind of just look at windscreens and tell you exactly what happened.
Share. Please do share.
But I know they've been kind of dealing with a lot of comm issues. A lot of people are just that this was sadly the team that like mechanically across the board should have probably been one of the best, if not the best, New Origins team that was made the split. It just there's too many people that have too many different views on how to play the game,
Mm.
and it's kind of like the too many Chiefs, not enough Indians issue of
I see.
just you can't stick to one style, and the people that when they try to play to one person's style, the other side can't adapt to it and play the contrary of it. Um, and that's what it looks like in these games. Like game one, obviously didn't watch any of these, but obviously kills are relatively close, which is very weird for this to be a 23-minute game. So I don't know if they just like flipped on an Otacon fight, lost, and then gave up like an 8K gold lead in the course of 3 minutes, and then just got choked.
Damn.
But it's a pretty
Wow.
standard draft, and then game two, you're jumping to playing like a Quinn comp, which
Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, it
uh,
looks like all of these games 1 and 2 were comfortably under 30 minutes. Game 3 did go on a little bit longer. Clown Gaming, I guess, we're playing Kale in that game, so that's probably partially the reason why it did drag on. But obviously, Rept and Cloudberry, you guys were on the Rift as well while this match was being played. But Aurel or Righteous, did either one of you guys watch this match?
I did not get a chance to see this one.
Well, Righteous,
Neither
is
did
there
I.
anything in the... fair enough, fair enough. Righteous, anything in these win screens jumping out at you?
Resilient had himself a really nice game. 11-0-3 on the Caitlyn. It just seems like him and God's Glory got to ramp up there in the mid game, and it looks like it was probably just like one really bad fight that ended up kind of doing it in game one.
Yeah.
You know, I do agree with Storm. I think there's a lot of good players on Goon Squad. But if what he's saying is true, where it's like they all have a different view on the game, or they can't like come to a consensus. It's really hard to win playoff series when you can't get on the same page. You don't know what's going wrong, or you think you do, but the other person next to you doesn't, and it's almost it's borderline impossible to kind of overcome that kind of situation.
Yeah, I could definitely see how that would be a pretty big damper on what otherwise would be a pretty strong team. Aurel, anything here for you? I mean, that Caitlyn Morgana game, I feel like that Regis was just highlighting in game number 2 is definitely pretty noteworthy. They feels like
Yeah.
looks like they were really able to take control of that one.
I mean, yeah, when you see the damage, the gold, you have 3k gold ahead in a 27 minute game just through 80 carry only. So you see, like, and actually support is 6k gold ahead. No, sorry. No, 2.5, sorry. I was looking at the wrong numbers.
Oh,
But
yeah.
in general, for all 3 games, it really looked like their bot lane was the ones that took the lead. I didn't have the chance to watch the game specifically, but I'm really happy to see a board player a board game in those games. It's my favorite champ. So every time I see board players, especially with the Witsend build, I really like this build. So
Wow.
pretty impressive. All 3 games, bot lane was ahead by quite a big margin in terms of gold. So I think if I'm facing Clown, it looked like we're gonna have to camp bot or find a solution against bot lane. So
Yeah,
good luck
seems
to
like it.
syndicates to lock their bot lane. But I think I believe they can do. Honestly, when I look at those rosters, I think I might be wrong because I think Bloom and Elysium are pretty strong, but I can see syndicates going the whole way. I can see them winning the whole thing, but that will be for will depend if their support is as cracked as Rip said.
Hmm. We'll see. We'll see. Anything else that our other guests would like to add about these win screens before we move on?
I do think it's crazy that it took them until game 3 to ban Gwen. I mean, Gwen is absolutely Thanos right now, and
Yeah.
like even if the team plays it, like regardless, if you don't have a for sure answer into it, probably just toss it or just pick it.
Yeah, the fact that Clown Gaming were able to flex the Gwen as well makes that a really big threat, for that team in particular. Good call out there.
Yeah, I just can't see like Kale being like a bigger threat than Gwen really.
Yeah. I think that should do it. It's ended up being a pretty one-sided affair in favor of Clown Gaming, in large part thanks to their Gwen players and also their bot lane playing extremely well in all 3 games. Definitely good looks for them. They'll be going up against, of course, Syndicate, as previously mentioned in the semifinals this week. But taking a look at our other semifinal, we have some head-to-head stats here. Bloom Gaming Lotus versus Elysium Chocolate Pancakes. So we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at this one now, Cloudbry. Starting with you, of course. What are there any stats here that you feel like are going to be important for us to take a look at, or is there anything not reflected in the stats that you feel like would be a better place to start this conversation?
I don't know. To be honest, my team has like this weird opinion on stats. They're kind of irrelevant once you load into the game every week. I think they just had a way better season than us, so most of their stats are going to be a lot higher than ours. I think the team kills is pretty similar, but we've also died more than we've gotten kills. I don't know. We're kind of inters sometimes. I mean, we played against them
We
in
all are.
2-1 them, and they were actually really close games. A few misplays
Mhm.
here and there into late team fights. So I think now that we've cleaned up our play a lot more, I think these games will go a lot better for us. I was getting shit on in the mid lane by a water cat, as every mid laner usually does when they swap to mid, but like it was whatever. I mean, I just have to play for my team. But yeah, I think it'll be
Yeah,
fun. I don't really
I
see
mean,
any stats that stand out to me.
we've discussed many times on the podcast before how stats only paint part of the picture, right? They always have to be
Yeah.
taken in context, and it can be really hard to draw any real conclusions just from looking at these stats. It's really just a jumping off point for us to talk about other things around the game. But
Yeah.
I am noticing here that your squad, Cloudberry, has significantly more wards placed. So
Yeah.
Aurel is probably pretty happy to see that.
I am.
Our
I am happy to see that.
our
Anything else here?
Benji, who is our support now turned coach, he's very adamant about vision and where we put it and not just wasting it. I think throughout the season we've gotten a lot better. Even though our top laner literally refuses to buy wards, I don't think that guy. You can probably check the stats if there's a thing. He's probably bought maybe one pink ward at all, and that's because I begged him to. So, I
Holy.
mean, yeah,
Why
we
do we
just
have a
control.
top laner player?
Vision's the name of the game. We like to fight around pockets of vision. So we try to do our best with that. I think having good vision and playing around it are two different things. So
Yeah.
it's easier said than done, but yeah, we kind of get hounded on it. So
Anything there you wanted to add, Aurel? Anything you want to comment on regarding that, or anything else here on the stats?
No, I mean both teams look pretty close. Like in general, as Cloudberry mentioned it, I do not think KDA is such an important stat in general, except when there is a big difference between like if you really have a few deaths, it may mean that you play cleaner. But in general, the stats here, I'm just happy to see a high word plays by team for Bloom Gaming, and I think they'll win the series just because of that. And if they did, we'll come back next week and say that war is actually important. Be able to
That's
mention
right.
that to your top laner.
It's become a regular debate here in the Top Hat Lounge, so that'll definitely be fun to track. Rep, anything here for you? Anything especially interesting on the stats, or anything you wanted to respond to or jump off of that we've already mentioned?
No, I mean, I think Rift Heralds is kind of an interesting thing, with more games, like half the Rift Heralds. I know some teams just actually don't really think Rift Herald is that important.
It's
So
me.
so
I
I'm,
think it's.
you think it's fake?
I do, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Please go on.
No, you're good. No, and I think that's the common consensus, unless if you're able to like, leverage it through like grubs and trading towers
I
for whatever
mean,
objectives.
it
But
could be real. Our team doesn't like prioritize heralds too much, like unless it's like easy for us to take realistically. I'd have to ask my jungler, but it could be right. We could have only taken 5, so I don't know.
yeah, and that's I mean, that would be like the only interesting that I could think of is
Yeah.
kind of like that's a large objective, kind of just if leveraged
Mhm.
right, it gives you a lot of tempo on the map. But I mean, other than that, like everything else looks close enough to where you can't really say one team is just gonna blast the other team away, right?
Mhm.
For sure, yeah. Slight edge for Elysium there in terms of dragons and barons, as well as the Rift Heralds. I'm gonna have to watch out for those. It sounds like Bloom has a newfound focus on those dragons, one of the 3Ds, of course. So
Yeah.
could see a lot of big fights around those dragons. Righteous, anything you'd like to add?
I mean, not particularly. It's definitely gonna be a bot side focused matchup. It seems like just from the stats. It's unfortunate we can't see like the actual grubs. I think Rift Herald. If you can split grubs 3-3, there's no reason to actually play for it. But if a team gets like 5 or 6, then it's really important to either deny if you're the team going against that, or if you're the team that has that, that's where you can get a lot of tempo, a lot of pushing power. But if you split the 3-3 grubs, then I do think that Rift Heralds are fake news.
Yeah. The extra Twitch chatter power from the Herald definitely
Yeah,
can be really significant. I'm with
yeah,
you
for
there.
sure.
Storm, coming to you last this time for the stats. Usually I come to you first, but you're going to be rounding out our stats conversation this time around. Anything you want to add?
Um, yeah, kind of a lot of what they're saying. Like once you hit this point of the season, these stats do become kind of fake. Especially like one, you have to think a lot of these Bloom stats are coming from games where this roster didn't actually play.
Sure, yeah.
So that's a big thing to key in here. But I will say, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup purely because these teams are playing two different styles. Um, whereas Elysium's heavily playing through mid with kind of an off-roll top laner. Um, I think that's probably going to be the matchup to watch in this series will be top lane to see if Instrument can like play to get a big enough lead into his off-road counterpart, whereas can Banana Man just kind of absorb the pressure that's going to be playing 1v3 mid. Um, so I think that's going to be an important thing to keep track of. throughout the series.
I'm going to go ahead and get a prediction from everybody as well. Cloudberry already shared with us his prediction for this match. But Storm, what are your expectations for the eventual outcome?
I think it'll be a 3-1, but I think it'll go the way of Elysium. Elysium plays very similar to how we do, but just they play through mid, whereas we play more through bot. But they just play a lot cleaner, and their drafts are a little bit wider than ours. So I think us pushing them to 5 games, I feel like Elysium just generically doesn't coin flip as much as we do.
Okay. Perhaps they'll
So
have some.
I'm gonna side with Elysium.
Perhaps they'll have some more consistent drafts as well. We'll have to wait and see if they're going to be able to put a stop to Bloom's massive amount of momentum that they do have now. Righteous, do you have a prediction for this match? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't have a prediction. I haven't been following these two teams very closely. I'll just go with Elysium because that seems to be the popular opinion. But I hope it's a fun series for both teams.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. It sounds like all these players, as Cloudberry was saying earlier, get along pretty well also. So that always adds another fun little layer to it. Rep, can we get a prediction from you as well, please?
I think it'll be 3-1 Elysium. Kind of in line with what Storm says. I think Chaser is like extremely good, and then I think Watercat is just hands down like way better than no offense Storm than Storm. So like if that matchup went 3-2 like the distance, I just think they go 3-1.
Okay. And then last but not least, Aurel, if I could get a prediction from you as well, sir.
I need Watercat to lose, so I'll say Bloom win 3-2. That's
Okay.
just personal.
Oh
The
yeah,
only Bloom predictor besides Cloudberry himself. I'm glad we got another one.
it's okay. That happened last week, and we saw what happened.
Well, we have multiple Crusader members here, of course. So, Cloudberry, we'll come to you for now. Anything else you wanted to add? Anything that you feel like we missed that you wanted to mention?
Not really. No, should be fun next week. Excited. I've been playing
Yeah.
from a PC cafe because my internet
Really?
has been terrible at home. Yeah, it doesn't work
Oh.
at home. I don't know. It's weird. So
Well, I don't want you to dox yourself. There's not too many PC cafes here in the States. I'm living out in Chicago,
Oh,
and I only know of a
gotcha.
couple here. But if I'm just curious, if what city you live in where there's a PC cafe.
I don't mind. I live in Irvine, California, so like Orange County, so near UCI. There's a lot of PC cafes and stuff around this area. But yeah, there's also a lot of internet monopolies. So if you're stuck with a terrible provider, you get stuck with terrible internet, and there's nothing you can do. So it is what it
Sounds
is.
about
I
right.
enjoy playing. It's hype. So
Yeah, totally. I was actually for one of the other leagues. Sorry for going a little bit off topic here, but one of the other leagues that I've cast for in the past, I actually cast an entire season at a PC cafe.
oh nice.
So that was pretty cool. So hopefully I'll be able to get over there again for a cast sometime soon. But Reps, any final thoughts here as we round out our Crusader conversation? Anything that we missed?
Nope. I think it'll be a fun week this week.
Cool. Storm, out of the tournament now, of course, unfortunately. Anything else you'd like to add? Anything you feel like anything else we should mention?
I mean, I feel like we've covered it pretty in depth for the most part. Obviously, best of luck to the top 4 remaining teams. Maybe I'll be able to cast one of your guys' games depending what my work schedule looks like. Now that I'm in off season, I tend to kind of get slammed on overtime for a little bit, but we'll see what we can make work.
That would definitely be pretty cool if you ask me. Well, let's go ahead
Well,
now and
I was gonna say one last thing. I was gonna say I wanted to shout out my teammates, mainly because this season has been absolute turbo dog shit or the best days of our lives. So like shout out to Instrument. This guy is like constantly watching his VODs and improving. Banana Man for being the legend and just coming in and subbing for us and putting time aside. And then Ren doing the same thing. If they're watching, I want them to know I really appreciate them. Yeah, that's about it. They don't get enough attention, so I want to let them know.
Yeah, so actually I want to jump in as well. All the Sin Reds people, Silent, Luxodon, you both stink. Peekaboo, you never ganked me and I don't like you. So
Well, you guys, of course, I was going to give you an opportunity to do your shout outs later as well, but I'm
Oh,
glad that
awkward.
you.
I had to get it off my chest.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, so I appreciate
Burning.
that you were eager to give those shout outs instead of me asking for them. Is more organic that way. I think it's fantastic. But let's go ahead and move on now to our last division that we do need to discuss, the Warden division, of course. Aurel, our representative from Warden, joining us once again this week, got the 3-0 over Cherry and the rest of Dorado Kai. What can you share with us, Aurel, about that match?
Well, it was a match that definitely wasn't what I expected, to be honest. I mean, I never faced them, so I didn't know. I heard. I think I was watching one of the podcast in the past where it was Cherry that was here saying
Yeah.
she didn't knew any of us. So I mean, now
She
she
does
know.
now.
Now she does know us. So obviously, like they were looking to be the most dominant roster, and so very happy it went 3-0. We played our game. I think that's what we're missing after the last podcast, actually. Maybe the circle is going again, but we're. Yeah, exactly. We lost a bit our identity, to be honest, at some point. And so I think since the playing games, we came back and just found how we wanted to play the games. We had way more clear comms. It was just cleaner game where we were not messy. And so it went 3-0 against Dorado. We were still expecting them maybe to get like some counter punch or something. I think, to be honest, it looked like they didn't really respected us. So I hope our next opponent respect us a bit more, because game one they pick Elise jungle, Zed mid. I was
Wow.
like, that's. I mean, it looked like they were HLE and we were TL during first stand. You know, it's that kind of disrespect I felt game one. So
Oh,
I just hope.
man.
I think game two and three were better quality, but yeah, again, surprised on itself. But I think when I watch at all those games, there's not a single one in quarterfinal that I'm not surprised about. I could have bet every single opposite team to win actually. So
Yeah, I was thinking that earlier as well. I think when I filled out my prediction bracket, I think I got every single one of those quarterfinals wrong, which is pretty wild.
mhm.
But before we move on, do you feel like, I'm curious, Aurel, if you feel like Vision played a big role in that win over Dorado Kai? Of course, if you remember from that
Mhm.
episode where we had
I
Cherry
mean,
on, she was maybe not as high on Vision being very important.
no, I mean, again, I've worked a lot. I know my teammates didn't really change their mind. I'm gonna be completely honest. I love to say to other teams like, please be good on Vision.
I
My
remember,
top mid jungle don't buy pink wards. It's just never gonna happen. It's just never gonna happen. So I'm not fighting it anymore. But I know personally what to do. So I just play around that personally. And so, you know, I made my mind in peace. Now I'm in peace with it. I understand they won't put Vision, so I'll be able to put words. I just think specifically in this, I don't think it was Vision that really played. It's more that we knew we were tracking Cherry very well. I think our jungler really improved, and all of us on that. We were not dying on ganks as much as we used to, and so the jungle tracking being very good, we didn't really had to place much word compared to the past. So I think
right?
just smaller on the map, I'll say.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And then, Aurel, I'm wondering if you wanted to add anything as well about the play-ins match that you played. It was 2-0, of course, over Definitely Not Lit. If you want to jump back there for a second, anything noteworthy about that match that you'd like to mention?
I mean, I think that was when we really. I think it's since we faced since the cross group games. I think it's the first time that we were really on the same page on what we wanted to do, and I think, and honestly, those games were pretty one-sided. All respect to DNL that definitely tried and showed their draft, but I think either draft or inside the game, it felt really one-sided. And I think it helped us build the momentum to after go 3-0 against Dorado. So I think it was definitely what we needed, these playing games. Because I think if we went straight to Dorado after what happened at the end of regular season, we wouldn't probably not have 3-0 them. So definitely
Yeah.
help us.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I am definitely a believer in momentum and sort of having that confidence going into matches. If you have been winning a lot recently, I think it can definitely be impactful. And you and the rest of the squad, you've got a 5-win streak going here in the postseason. How are you feeling going into that matchup against Mint Cryptic?
And again, another team that I feel like can win everything. Honestly, I think Mint beating Contingent Black must have been hard, or like I don't know. Maybe they probably say it better, but I feel like this CEB roster is really strong. So we lost to Mint 2-1 with 3 very close game. So
That was week 8.
I
Yeah.
just yeah, that was one of the last week too before we start playing. So
Right.
I'm not 100% confident we're gonna win in the sense that again, like Dorado, I think we're the underdogs. Even though with 3-0 Dorado, I still think on paper Mint is better than us. But I think we'll just use the momentum we built and work on draft as best as we can to give us all the options we need to beat them. So I'll predict we win, obviously, because I'm one of the apotheosis player, but Mint are really good. And their bot lane, Longshot Larry, I have to give him a really good job because I watched the games that were being streamed by Mint. Longshot Larry is someone, so big respect to him.
Yeah, Larry's been a standout, I think, on that team for sure. Do you have a prediction in terms of like the exact score for that match?
Well, I hope it's 3-0 because I work the next day, so I hope we 3-0 them. But realistically, I think I don't want to be cocky, but I'd say 3-1 for us. I'll say 3-1 for us. I think Larry gonna get his Gene 1 game, we'll let it through. He's gonna get a penta against us, and we'll
Oh
log back
man.
in.
Okay, okay. Good plan, good plan. Now, I think it was Rept was just mentioning earlier that he was able to go with the call off work strategy for the day
Yeah.
after his playoff match. So
Yeah,
maybe you could.
would not recommend
Oh
Yeah, I
no,
was
you
gonna
don't think?
say.
Oh, I see.
unless
Oh,
you have
maybe
I
not.
PTO to
recommend it if you have
burn.
a cool enough job.
Yeah, I mean, my job is okay with me taking day off, but I still prefer getting them for when it's summer because I'm in Canada, Montreal, so it's still snowing outside. So I'll keep my my 3 days for when there's sun outside.
Okay, that makes sense. For the summer season of LXC, as I'm sure you're referring
Exactly.
to. Perfect.
This one exactly.
Aurel, I know we've been hearing from you for a while, but before we jump to our other guests, were there any other results from this past week in particular that you really wanted to highlight or touch on?
I mean, I know that Akuma had a roster change before these games. I don't know if it was ruled. I don't exactly know what happened, but I know there were a changement in Akuma, so maybe didn't help them, and NLE Kitten got the win. It's just mentioning that last time I was here, I said that NLE Kitten and Goofy Gooners were
You
the 2
did.
teams to
I
watch out for,
remember. Yeah.
and they just deliver. So I'm really happy for them because I think every interaction I got with any of those teams was really nice. So surprised they won. Honestly, I was not expecting either of those teams to win, but hey. The
I
Goofy Gunners
mean,
against Mid game was crazy. I watched that live. I was like really hyped for Goofy Gunners.
you called it though. I mean, you could have been like, I knew it the whole time that they were going to the summer, and we would have had to give you that credit, but fair enough.
I knew they were good. I didn't knew they would be way better than Akuma for NLE, and it was very close for Mint because I think Mint mid laner Anthony is really really good. But Goofy Gunners were better, so really happy about those 2 other games.
Oh yeah, and we do have a little bit more information here about what happened with Akuma as well. Apparently, some of their players did not play the required number of games to qualify to be eligible to play in the postseason. So that is what happened there, and I'm sure that did play some kind of role in them not being able to get even a single game off the kittens. Storm,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah. Storm, any results from this past week in particular? There's, here, obviously a ton of upsets here, but are there any matches in particular that you'd like to zoom in on, and discuss a little bit more?
Like obviously the Dorado team dropping 0-3, Cherry, our other resident yapper, um, was surprising. Obviously, the Tilt Boys, our boy Aurel over there, kind of the goat. So I'm not surprised to see them win as much as I was more surprised the fashion it happened.
Yeah.
Contingent Black taking 2 games off Cryptic, I think was pretty surprising. And then on the bottom half, Goofy Gooners also winning is just kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I was thought pretty highly of that Mint Gaming roster as well, but I mean, going into semifinals, I think it's gonna be pretty good matchups either way.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy for sure. Did you fill out a bracket, a prediction bracket or a pick'ems for Warden Storm?
Yeah, I don't think I did because I was lazy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Did anybody? Aurel, I assume you filled one out, right?
Mm, I didn't because I know it jinxed, but I know I know someone who cast in Alexi named Storm who bet against us. So I hope she bet that the Rada will win. So just have to say it. Even in our own Discord, we don't trust Tilt to win, so it must prove something that we actually won.
Yeah, I think it
Where did I
does.
bet this? I'm so confused.
I mean, I
I'm sure you did at some point, Storm. You didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
We don't have to
What
go
a fan.
too much into the weeds on that. Did anybody here do besides me do a pick'ems for Warden? No.
Nope.
Fair enough, I guess.
Great.
Well, yeah. Where you guys at? Come on, just get your free ride points. I guess if you predict a bunch of upsets. Any of our other guests would like to discuss any of these matchups? Anything else we need to touch on with the playoff bracket here? Sounds like we go ahead and move on to some win screens. We're taking a look at what transpired between the Goofy Gooners and Mint with a Y, the match that we had on stream. You know, for this first game, looks like Mint were able to take the victory in game number 1. We're at just past 30 minutes on the clock there. Did have Luckified was on the Sejuani. And Anthony had a great game there on the Kaisa mid. Looks like it was the full AP build as well. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's this Anthony guy. That's why I'm happy he's out of the tournament. Like he has always the most annoying picks to fight. So I'm really happy. And when I watched all the games after, like this game specifically, like we also faced this Keisa. It was also very annoying to face. So definitely, like he's a very great player.
Yeah, Rept, thoughts on AP Kaisa in the mid lane at the moment?
I mean, actually, I think it's relatively decent. I mean, it's probably not something that I would pick, just off the rip. But I mean, I think into Victor, it seems really interesting. Like, I feel like that lane would be relatively hard to play because you just kind of get poked out.
If you had to play one of either Kaisa or Aphelios, which one would you go for?
Oh, for sure, Kaisa. Because then at least I
Okay.
could just press W and just call it a day.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Did you want to elaborate at all on your thoughts about that matchup against the Victor?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you would assume that Victor probably early couldn't really trade with Kaisa because then Kaisa can just auto queue call it a day. But like over time, Victor E should just outrange Kaisa. But I mean, apparently it works. So maybe there's some hidden tech there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Anthony ended up actually doubling Jazz Goblin's damage by the time the Nexus exploded. So pretty insane. Way ahead was the Kaisa on those damage charts. I wonder how many stacks were on the Medjais when the game ended. Probably a lot, if I had to guess. Taking a look at the second win screen. What happened here? This was the first win for the Goofy Gooners. They had a Nunu in the jungle as well as that Cho'Gath mid. So really interesting to see some beefy boys in the jungle and mid positions. A little bit unorthodox, right? And they did also, of course, have the Gwen. Who was talking about Gwen earlier? Can't remember.
It was me, Rept. So I was.
Oh yeah. Well, back over to you, Rept. Looks like the Gwen on top of the damage charts in this one. I think we're not really too surprised by that. Anything else you wanted to comment on here for the second win screen?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty unique to flex the Cho mid, seeing after they go like R1 Smolder. I mean, playing Smolder in a Cho'Gath is relatively unplayable, for the Smolder that is. But I mean, overall, the draft from Gunners was kind of like really, really, really good. I'd say. I don't know how Gwen makes it to B5, but I mean, it did.
Yeah. It was a little bit AP heavy this draft for the Gooners, with Vayne really being the only physical damage, but Mint with Y, the only tank that they drafted was the Mundo, so it ended up working out totally fine. Um, Anybody else would like to chime in on either of these first two win screens? Anything here that we're missing?
I mean, Anthony KDA.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to say the
Tried to pull
10-1
out.
Cho'Gath against the 1 and 10. I think it
Yeah.
showed the entire series, and we'll probably show it after again. It's like it looked like Anthony is a bit dictating the pace of the games, like depending if he's really winning in lane or if he's losing the lane. It's looked like the rest is either working well or working bad with that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's take a look at this third win screen. Anthony finally on a champion that's not an AD carry here in the mid lane. Tried out the Swain this time around, but it did not work out for him. The second win for the Goofy Gooners here in game number 3. They flexed the Cho'Gath into the top lane this time around. And Jokage, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know if the J is silent or not. But looks like Jokage. Jokic. Thank you, production. Joke Edge? Like edge? Like the edge of something? Something like that. Apologies to Joke Edge if we're butchering it. But it did have a pretty good game on the Twitch here in game number 3.
I think it's like the NBA player's name, similar to that.
Oh, Jokic. Right? Something like that.
What happens if we don't
Jokic.
watch NBA?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
That
it's
was
my
just
dilemma.
Jokage.
My bad, I forgot. PC game players and
if it's-
sports
Yeah, we
do
played
not
League,
go
bro.
together.
If it's like
One of the-
Naruto, then it's Jokage.
Yeah, one of the games I
Um,
casted, I did Jokic, and it was not right. They said it was Jokage, so.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you for that, Righteous.
Being
But,
gaslit everywhere, left and right. This is crazy.
Righteous, we haven't heard from you yet about any of these win screens. Anything jumping out at you here in game 3?
I mean, it's an interesting trend. The Goofy Gooners, they have such high prio on the Cho'Gath flex. It's not something that a lot of teams have done it. I know, Los Ratones has come up before. That's kind of been their thinking about the champion as well. If it can find the right angle into mid lane, it's probably one of the better mid laners if it gets that winning matchup. But other than that, it seemed like games 2 and 3. I don't know if Mint was playing tilted after Anthony went 1 and 10 or what, but both of those were kind of one-sided affairs. So
Yeah, seems like it. Interesting that Aulios on the Cho'Gath here in game 3 went for it probably went Shurelio's first, right? And definitely move speed was the focus with this build, but it did a little bit of an adaptation on it, right? Where he went with like a little bit more AP with the Cosmic Drive and the Riftmaker there. A little bit of a variation on the Cho'Gath build that we usually see. Moving on to game 4. Let's see here. This was, of course, the second win for Mint with a Y. They were able to tie things up at 2-2 to bring us to Silver Scrapes. And it looks like everybody on the side of Mint played quite well in this game 4. Lovarik finding some redemption. 10-2 on the Mordekaiser. Really shut out Alios' Aatrox in this game. And Anthony back in form for game 4. 10-4 and 14 on the Veigar. Looking pretty good there. Actually, that looks like the highest kill participation in the game for Anthony's Veigar. 24 out of, I guess we don't have kill totals, but I believe that is the highest on the team. Who haven't we heard from yet? Oh, Aurel, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, I think the draft from Goofy Gooners playing Vi with 0 follow-up engage is very hard. I just think because that's the first game I watched because I ended my best of 3 after that, and I think it was the stream game. And so they just couldn't get into that Veigar, and the Volibear also out-sustained so much their draft. So I just felt like I think the draft for Goofy Gunners was really hard losing and kind of unplayable, in my opinion.
Fair enough, yeah. Anybody else, anything to add about this game 4?
No, I think Aurel kind of hit it on the head. Like the draft from Goofy just seems very hard to execute. I mean, obviously not impossible, but it's I don't know how you play into that team. Just Veigar alone kind of just ruins your entire game.
Yeah. Consensus here in the lounge, a goofy draft for the Gooners in game 4. It's what pushed us to this 5th and final game in the series that the Gooners were eventually able to win. Just under 35 minutes was the time, and it looks like a pretty one-sided affair, all things considered. They did not die very much on the side of the Gooners in this last one. And what happened here is we had oh, the players are just a little bit out of order for some reason on the side of Mint. I was like, Lokified was playing Volibear mid with Smite? No. Anthony tried to pull out the Vagar again, but it didn't work as well this time, and the Gooners were able to take it. I believe we haven't really heard from you, Cloudberry, about any of these win screens. Anything jumping out at you here?
I just think it's going 5 games. Each team has had a turn to like just absolutely int. So it looks like most games were back and forth. So I didn't watch it or I haven't followed this league at all, but it seems like it was a fairly close series. Each team had their moments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Anything else? Anybody on these win screens before we move on?
Yeah, Mint forgot to play the Silas tax. There's 2 champions where if you pick them, you got to make sure you ban Silas. That's Malphite and Alistar, and they didn't do that. And Jazz had a pretty easy game because of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's take a quick look here. When was the Silas locked in? Game 5.
It was B4. I mean,
It was
yeah,
before,
like
and the Alistar was all for. I think
Yeah.
when I saw that in the cast, I was like, yeah, I mean, they were really trying to lose the game for some reason.
and like, why are you like? Are we really that afraid of Gnar? Like, I mean, I think you drop the Gnar ban, especially if you're R5ing top anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting, yeah. Anyways, big congratulations to the Gooners on finding that upset and validating Aurel's high opinion of you guys. Absolutely fantastic. Best of luck to the Gooners in their semifinal. But moving on now, our streamed semifinal here in Warden for this week is, of course, going to be your squad, Aurel, going up against Mint with an I, Mint Cryptic, the Division Kings of the league. And you were just saying earlier, your own top side not really, you're not really able to get them on board with the whole vision being important thing. That is, I think, reflected here in the stats pretty significantly.
Yeah, I mean,
Anything
I
else?
believe, I believe from what I saw is, I think the stat was made for playoff where I have the highest vision per minute in this league, and I do believe that if I counted correctly, the rest of my team has probably like in the last best of 5 and best of 3, 10 pink word combined in 5 games. So I feel a bit alone on this word vision, but I'll let
Yeah.
others speak about the stats.
Yeah, sounds like that's going to be a big challenge for you, Aurel, going up against the Vision Kings here. It's going to be all up to you to try and get the vision that really matters for the rest of your team. But yeah,
Indeed.
anybody else would like to chime in here on these stats? Storm, any thoughts? Anything significant here for you?
I mean, a lot of these games here between them and Cryptic are just going to come down to draft. Obviously, once you're at like this high end of the league, um, mechanical differences in players aren't as wide as some of the other divisions. So I think making sure whatever side has a stable draft that they can feel comfortable playing every stage of the game is really important. But yeah, I think that's gonna be the biggest thing for both these teams. Obviously, Tilt riding kind of the wave, playing into a really good Dorado team, and then taking
Yeah.
that 3-0. I don't know how much bigger of a wave you can get off that, but if this is the Tilt fucking train, and well, this is the Tilt train, brother. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Mint Cryptic can derail it or not. Seems like it's going to be a bit of a challenge for them. I'm noticing right now, it feels like it looks like Mint have significantly more dragons taken. So that's something noteworthy for me. So Cloudberry, you were talking about dragons earlier, right? Do you feel like that's pretty significant here, or not really?
It can be. I think with teams that play at this level, obviously you're gonna need. I think it's depends on who executes their game plan a lot better. Like draft's very important, but going into the game with the game plan and executing it and following that is something a lot of teams struggle with, no matter what division you're in. So I think that's very important here. I guess the dragon, it's like a 20 dragon ish. No, yeah, math 20 dragon ish
Yeah,
difference,
around there,
almost
yeah.
30. I mean, that can just be from some bad games, bad series happens. But overall, I think it looks pretty close. Like, I like the concept of riding that high of like winning a few in a row. Like Bloom, we haven't dropped a game since like we started winning. I think obviously
Totally,
we're still
yeah.
in the series, the league, but like once you get that going, you just that confidence goes up, and like you don't feel like you're the underdog anymore. You feel like you're where you're supposed to be. So I think Tilt will have that going for them. Um, and yeah, it's the confidence, game plan execution. Whoever does it better is going to win. So as long as both teams know what they want to do and how to do it, one of them is going to win, obviously. But whoever does
I
it better,
assume so.
yeah. But
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Righteous, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just when you're like looking at the different stats, I mean, it's nice getting like the bulk of it, but you always got to go off like a per game basis when comparing two teams. So Mint does get slightly more drags, less than one dragon over Tilt Esports though. So I don't think it's as big as like when you look at that bulk number as the per game number, because they do have 5 more games played, right? And so I
Mhm.
think when you kind of put that in perspective, like look at the gold per minute, almost having 7 gold per minute over Mint
Ooh, yeah.
is actually rather large in the grand scheme of things. Just because if you're averaging about 32, 34, that means all your gold efficiency numbers are up. So 37 is really big for Tilt. And so if they're able to play clean games and set up around objectives, then Cryptic could be in trouble. Because on paper, I think these two teams are very close. Tilt, though, playing with momentum, like everyone has been talking about that word, and they close out games pretty quickly. So if Mint's banking on a long affair, being able to scale up, then they might be disappointed.
We'll see. Just getting some predictions here before we wrap up. Aurel, I think you already gave us your prediction earlier, right? Did you say 3-1?
Yeah,
For
3-1
Storm?
for us, for Apoyo.
That's right. That's right. Righteous, you want to get in there for a prediction? What do you think's gonna transpire with this one?
Um, Tilt has won me over. I'm gonna say it's a 5-game banger, and Aurel
Ooh.
actually does have to call out of work, so it's gonna be 3-2 Tilt.
Yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see it. Cloudberry, what are your thoughts? You have a prediction for this one?
I think it's 3-2 Tilt. I think the momentum is going to help
Okay.
them. Once you get to I think it's going to be 5 games. But once you get to game 5, you know what you need to do to win, especially since you've been playing some good teams. So I think they'll get the job done.
Another vote of confidence for Aurel. Rep, are we going to keep it going? What's your prediction for this one?
You know, I got no idea, but I'll just say 3-0 Mint.
Oh, okay. Spicy, spicy. Wow. I mean, they are the Vision Kings, right? So maybe that'll be the difference. Could be. Storm, last but not least, you have a prediction for this one?
I'm gonna go 3-0 Tilt. Rel's the boy. Easy. Get fucked.
There you go. Easy peasy. That is going to do it, guys. Aurel, of course, the last word on Warden. Anything that we missed? Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I just, I mean, I know we're gonna come back to that, but as my Crusader friend did before, I just want to say well played to my teammates for the past few games, and we don't speak enough about it, but I think my jungler have been improving insanely throughout this season, so I just want to say really well played to my junglers. Thanks for playing together. I think it's pretty fun, and we'll win everything. That's my last word for any people in Warden watching. We're winning the LXC this year.
Fantastic, fantastic. Glad you have that
Oh, yeah.
level of confidence. And as a perfect transition, Aurel, that's all we have left is the shout out. So perfect timing there. Cloudberry, I know you got yours in earlier, but if there's anything else, anybody
Yeah.
that you forgot before, maybe, or
I guess I forgot my jungler. I feel really bad, but shout out to Guster. He came into Bloom last split and has just been a rock, part of staff and just part of Bloom in general. And he came in and helped us out. And this guy is actual goat of the scene. So he is the best jungler this season I played with. So love the guy.
yeah, excellent, excellent. Glad we got that Guster shout out in. So I always enjoy watching him play as well. So curious to see if you guys are going to be able to keep your own momentum going. That'll be really, really exciting to track. Rep, you also got in some shout outs earlier on, but I want to give you the mic one more time here if there's anybody that you forgot.
Yep. Just wanted to throw another thing in. I think it's crazy that people think that Elysium versus Bloom is the championship when the season 1 and season 2 champs are on the other side. So just don't everybody sell us out. But the only shot I have is Hep. You know, Badge rip. Sorry you got headshot, buddy, but hopefully we can take the dub home.
Hey, it happens. It happens. Good stuff there. Right, just need your shout outs, please.
Yeah, I mean, shout out the boys over at Rivals, putting together a solid season. Already got their ticket to finals locked in, so that's nice. But also to the members of the LXC community, we've been doing a lot of content over there. It's been enjoyable. Appreciate the support that they've shown us, and it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, we all love our content, right? So it's I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody's very thankful for you as well, Righteous, and the rest of the Rivals
Appreciate it.
squad for doing that extra content. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Then our regular guest, Storm, the only member of the lounge tonight who is not going to be continuing here in the postseason. Any final words from you here, sir? Anything else you'd like to shout out?
Shout out to all the teams, all the LXC staff, obviously. Shout out Dira for helping with the Sentinel cast the other day. My cute little E corner stander in the Crusader this split. That man's played for like half the league at this point. But yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. Well, thank all of you guys very, very much for joining me in the lounge this evening. It's fantastic to hear all of your insights as we are drawing towards the end of Season 2 here in the LXC. It's going to be very, very exciting to see who all does manage to come out on top. Everybody, don't forget we have the grand finals in the Arbiter League tomorrow night. Usual time, usual place, right here at twitch.tv/LXC stream. Make sure you don't miss that one. For myself, from everybody here at the LXC, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.